Hi folks, and welcome back to the course. In this lesson we will explore the sound waves. The sound waves are the main assets when we are working with audio. In this case we have a lot here in our assets folder, but also if you want you can check in the starter content. We also have an audio folder. Here we have a lot more of sound waves and even sound cues. We will check in the next lesson what is a sound cue. For now, let's focus in the ones that has like this sound wave. Okay, so first let's start with this starter music. We only need to drag and drop into our scene. Let's play and see what happens. Now our level has background music. Let's check the parameters of this ambient sound. Here in our outliner, let's change the name to AS Music. AS stands for ambient sound. Here you can see the name here in the type. Let's set the location to the origin. And here we have the parameters of the ambient sound. The first one is the sound. You can change here the sound wave if you want to play another different sound. Also we can adjust here the volume. I recommend you to play a lot with these parameters. The second one is the pitch multiplier. Here you can choose if you want a higher or a lower tone in your sound. Let's try a little bit first with a lower one. And also we can try with a higher. You may notice that the values reset after we leave the play mode. So be sure to choose the values that you want. Also we can use a low pass filter. What is a low pass filter? We can use a low pass filter to only reproduce the lowest notes. Let's look how this sounds. Let's change this value. We're gonna take out 2 zeros and see how it sounds now. Now the sound is like if we are underwater. Maybe if we are hearing the sound from another room. This is how a low pass filter works. It will take all the higher frequencies and it will only reproduce the lowest ones. It's like when I put my hands in my mouth so you can hear difference. Can you tell the difference now? It's something like that, and you can adjust this filter with this. Also we can check some different parameters here. We can check the attenuation. We will dive more in another lesson, just focusing in attenuation. Also we have the randomization. Here we can play with the pitch and the volume. And what's the difference with the ones that we have seen in previously? Let's first start with the pitch. Let's set the minimum to 0.5 and the maximum to 1.5. So every time that this ambient sound starts, it will slightly vary its pitch. It could be a pitch variation of 0.5 or it can augment the pitch so it will sound in a higher tone. In this case, it chooses a higher pitch. Let's try again. Even a higher pitch now. And every time it will choose a different pitch. Maybe for some background music it's not so useful because we want to maintain a constant pitch. But for other ambient sound it could be very useful, and we will see some applications in future lessons of this. The same here with the volume. It will reproduce in different volume levels each time that we play this. Let's try this out. Maybe this one is a little bit difficult to notice the changes, so you can try some extreme values here. And the last parameter that we are gonna see in this lesson is the activation. Here we can have an option is auto activate. If we had it like if we let this value as it defaults, it will start the music every time the level starts running. If we set this to false, we have to activate it outside this ambient sound, maybe with a blueprint, maybe if we want to trigger some audio. Let's try this out. And now the music is not playing. So for now I will let these two auto activate. I recommend you to start checking the sound waves that we have in our starter content folder, in our audio folder. Take a look to the sound waves. Maybe you'll find a sound wave that you want to use in the next lessons. Also in our assets folder, check a little bit these audios, and we are using all of these ones in future lessons. So I hope that you learned something new in this lesson, and I will see you in the next one. Hi folks, and welcome to this new lesson. In this lesson we will check the sound attenuations and how these affect our sounds. Here in our ambient sound music, we can set the attenuation in two different ways. Here in our attenuation, we can just click here in override attenuation, and we have all the parameters here. But let's do this in a different way for now. Let's create an attenuation asset. Here in our content browser, right click. In audio, let's search for sound attenuation. Let's name it background music. And let's add it to our ambient sound. Just select our new asset and click here. As we add the sound attenuation to our ambient sound, we notice that two spheres appear. Let's see what happens if we hit the play button. Look, as we are further to our ambient sound location, the sound becomes lower and lower. And if we get near, it will increase the volume. So this is a sound attenuation asset. Inside the sphere, this first sphere, we will hear the volume at its fullest. we will hear it without attenuation. When we are outside this sphere and inside the second sphere, we will hear the sound lower and lower as we are further from the origin. And when we are outside the two spheres, we will hear nothing at all. So let's take a look to the parameters that we can play with the attenuation. By default, we have a sphere shape. We can change the inner radius and the follow distance. In other words, this first sphere and this other sphere. You can choose where do you want the sound to start being affected by the attenuation. In this case, I will leave to the default values. I think it was 400. And let's take a look to the other shapes. We also can choose a capsule. Maybe this one does not look like a capsule now. Let's make the height a little higher. Let's reduce a little the fall of distance and augment the capsule radius. So now we see the two capsules. The same logic is here. Inside the inner capsule, you will hear the sound at its fullest, and outside this capsule, you will start noticing the attenuation. Let's try with the next shape, that is the box. And the same logic here. You set the shape and also the follow distance. Try to play a lot with these new parameters. We will see then the cone in the next lesson because it's a little bit different and also a little bit more parameters. Let's play a little bit more with the sphere one. Maybe when you are testing your levels, when you are debugging, you want to see the boundaries. We have many ways to do this. Let's try the first one, that is using the console command. I will start the game and I will get a little bit far from the sound so you can hear clear my voice. Okay, so now here we don't hear anything at all. The first option here is to type the backtick. And we open the console command. Here let's type au.3d visualize dot attenuation. Oopsie. And number 1 to set this to true. Okay, now we see the boundaries when the sound is playing and when we are inside the attenuation boundaries. If we are out, we are not gonna see these shapes. Maybe with the sphere is a little bit obvious, but you will notice that when we are playing with the cone, it will help us a lot. The other way to check this, also I forgot to mention something. Maybe most of you have not seen anything, but don't worry. You have to check a little setting here. Here let's find our sound, our starter music. Click here. Here it is, double click, and let's search for debug. By default this variable is set to false, so make sure that is set to true. So now you can see the debug. Another way to test the boundaries is being here, and we can click function 8 F8, and now we are still playing, but now we have like the editor controls. Everything's working good, and we can select the ambient sound. Okay, so now I recommend you to play a lot with these new settings. Try to change the inner radius, the follow-up distance, try different shapes, and in the next lesson we will check the cone and other interesting settings. So I will see you in the next one. Hi folks, and welcome back to this course. In this lesson we will continue exploring some settings that we can apply to our sound attenuation assets. In this case we will create another sound attenuation, but for a fire sound. So let's first add this new sound to our level. Here let's search the sounds folder, and let's find the fire one. It's here, and let's only drag and drop into the scene. Let's change the name. I will set the activation to false, the auto activate, so the background music don't start, and so we can hear the fire, the sound of the fire better. Okay, so with the fire, let's now check the attenuation settings. Here we can set the attenuation in a very different way. We can just click here in override attenuation, and we have all the settings here. There are some cases when we don't need to create a very specific asset for every single sound wave that we have. But imagine this case. We set our fire sound asset, we get every detail, we have the parameters right to the best sound that we want. Now imagine that we need another fire. What will happen? We have to create all of this one all by scratch, and there could be only like copy properties and paste, and if we have only one more fire, it's okay. But imagine that we have 100 fire assets, and we have to do every single one of them. It could be a little inefficient way to do this. So this is why sometimes it's better to create some sound attenuation, because we can select all these assets and just click here and set the attenuation asset. So with that in mind, let's just create these new attenuation settings in the ambient sound. Okay, now let's choose the final shape that we will see, the cone one. Okay, at first it doesn't look too much like a cone. It doesn't look like a cone at all. Here let's modify the cone radius. It doesn't change. It might be a little hard to notice the difference. Here in the line, you see that is like orange, and it has like a darker orange and a lighter orange. Look that when we modify the cone radius, the darker one gets longer or shorter, depending on your changes. Let's modify the cone angle, and now it looks like a cone. And here's the same logic. Inside this cone, we will hear the sound without attenuation, and in the outer cone, we will start to hear the sound to get lower and lower. The cone angle is how much wide do you want the cone to be. We can set the cone fall-off angle if you want maybe the fall-off to be a little bit more wider than this one. Also, we can set a little offset. Maybe you want the cone to start a little bit behind the sound, and the fall-off distance. Okay, let's try this out and see how it sounds. Okay, let's run our debug command. Now we can hear the fire. A very interesting thing here is that pay attention to your ears. Look how here we hear more on the left, and as I start to turn around, now the sound is on the right. We can set the spanning effect with our attenuation asset. Here in our file, we have this in attenuation spatialization. We have to check this to false, and we will have like a mono sound. But I think for the fire it's just right to have it to true. Maybe where we want to have this to false is in our background music, so we don't have this panning effect when we place our music. Additionally, to the cone shape, we can set an optional cone sphere radius. Here it will sound at its full volume, and also we can set the fall-off distance. Let's try this out. Let's run our command. It was behind me. Now we have the cone and also the sphere. Maybe you want to use this attenuation asset when you're setting something like a speaker. For this case, I think for the fire, the best shape is a sphere. Okay, now a little challenge for this lesson. You have to create a fade in, fade out effect, maybe to go from zone A to zone B, and create a fade in, fade out only using attenuation. I will show you how to do this in the next lesson. Also, I recommend you to change the parameters to the fire and set the inner radius and the fall-off distance to your preference. We here in the content drawer, in our assets folder, we have some models. You can create a campfire to start creating our level and give it some life. So play a lot with these parameters, try to beat this challenge, and I will see you in the next one. Hi folks, and welcome back to the course. In this lesson, we will see the solution to create a fade-in, fade-out effect only using the sound attenuation. Okay, and for this, we will select our ambient sound music, and since we can hear this sound almost in all the place, we're gonna put it a little bit at the back. Also the player start. And now we are gonna create the new ambient sound. Let's go to our content drawer. Here in audio, I will use the starter birds. I will put it here. And I will apply the same attenuation setting that we use with the background music. Okay, let's change the name. Ambient sound, birds and wind. Let's select both, and now as we can see, there's a little intersection here. In this space, we are gonna hear both of the sounds. As we approach to this section, the background music will start to fade out, while the birds and the wind sound will start to appear. Let's take a look at this. But first, let's move a little bit the fire. Even we can delete it for now. Let's hit the play button. I forgot to activate again my background music. So in activation, let's set this to true. And there it is. With this way, there is a very simple way to create this effect when we are transitioning through different parts of our game, of our project. Now let's create another blueprint, a new blueprint. And let's move all our stuff to a new folder. Let's call this folder Curse. Here we will put our background, our sound attenuation, and our assets. We cannot move our level because we are already using it, but you can change this level to this new folder if you want. Okay, so now here, let's create a new blueprint, an actor, BP fire. And here, let's create again our fire. In our assets folder, we have this models folder, and let's select the campfire rocks, and the wood. Let's drag this here. Let's select them. And let's change the scale to 40 in all the axes. Now we have something like this. For this now, let's add a particle system so it looks better. Here in the starter content, in particles, we have this fire effect. It looks nice. Finally, we can add the sound. So in our content drawer, in the starter content in audio, we have the fire. And that's it. We can... we already deleted. So we have to make again the attenuation settings. You can create a new file or just override. I think as for this, it's okay. I will take this to 200, and this one I will reduce it to a 600. Let's compile this. Let's put our new blueprint in the level. I think maybe here it's okay. Let's take a look. Now it sounds nice and looks good. Okay, so this is a very useful way to use attenuation. So I hope you learned something new in this lesson, and I'll see you in the next one.